Hello there my RPG lovers and welcome to another video. Gas-Powered Games, the studio behind the Dungeon Siege franchise, was unfortunately shut down back in 2013. It seems like this studio was really struggling financially, and this became apparent when they decided to sell the Dungeon Siege IP to Square Enix. After they finished working on Dungeon Siege 2, they started developing a real-time strategy game called Supreme Commander. The reception of this game was pretty good both from critics and the fans. It's also worth mentioning that Supreme Commander was one of the first games that supported dual and quad core CPUs, and this was back in 2007. The game would assign a specific task like AI calculations to each core, splitting the load between them. We take this stuff for granted these days, but it was a huge deal back then. Before Gas-Powered Games had to close their studio, they worked on a new action RPG which they described as Evolutionary. The name of this game is Wildman, and Chris Taylor, the director of Gas-Powered Games, tried to crowdfund this project on Kickstarter. Unfortunately, Chris had to cancel the campaign 4 days before it was going to end, because it became obvious that they won't manage to reach their goal. This was the final nail in the coffin for Gas-Powered Games, unfortunately. But what about Wildman? Would it really be an evolutionary action RPG? The main thing that was supposed to set Wildman apart from other similar action RPGs was the implementation of real-time strategy elements. War zones were supposed to be a huge feature in the game, where you could build an army and fight against other champions. We don't know how exactly would this work, but it seems like Gas-Powered Games would try to blend some features from their other games, especially from Demigod. Demigod came out in 2009, just a few months before League of Legends. This game had the potential to be really successful, but it was quickly overshadowed by League of Legends. It was a MOBA in its core, but Demigod also had a couple of RPG features. Chris Taylor did an interview with Rock Paper Shotgun in 2013 where they talked about Wildman. One of the questions was related to Demigod's influence on Wildman and what makes this an RTS/RPG and not MOBA/RPG. Then Chris responded, "You get into this whole RTS gameplay for what I call the war zone. You might be thinking of MOBA style game, and there's a lot of stuff that we love about MOBA. But what we want to do is have more of an RTS experience there, bring more of the RTS in with the ability for your hero character, your Wildman, who is evolving tech-wise. He takes these characters and depending on his leadership skill, he can rally and lead a few of them and do things like end runs or go to different places on the battlefield. He can find weaknesses in the other side's defenses. So, judging by this article, Wildman would definitely play very similar to MOBA games, at least when it comes to Warzone feature. To be completely honest, this doesn't sound particularly interesting, at least in my opinion. RTS features that Chris mentioned could be an interesting layer of depth, but it's obvious that the core gameplay is heavily MOBA oriented. However, Wildman was supposed to have an adventure mode where you could go and explore the world. There's not a lot of information about this gameplay feature, probably because it was still early in development. Chris gave a really vague answer when he was asked about the single player progression and the story. He basically said that would depend on the feedback from backers and the budget itself. Other features could suffer if people wanted to experience a rich dialogue system because of the limited budget. They have intentionally left some areas of games designed wide open because they were hoping to make Wildman more organically with backers' feedback. It's definitely a combat-oriented game, but discovery is important. When you're going through the overland adventure part of the game, you might find a cave or an old crypt or some entrance to something and you don't know what's down there. The question ultimately is, should I go down there and find some stuff and bring it back? When I fight the next war, I'll have better technology because I've gone exploring. So it's pretty obvious that the story wasn't the main focus of this game. The adventuring part sounds like an expedition to gather resources so you could be more successful in the war zone. But the character progression seems interesting from all that we could see. You would get to steal technology from fallen enemies and use it against them. And of course you could level up, get different skills, armors and weapons. The concept art for weapons looks really good actually, but the whole caveman theme didn't really grip me. When it comes to combat, Gas-Powered Games promised an advanced physics engine and destructible environments. You control one character, but once your hero gets stronger, you could command some other units as well. For the most part, every unit would fight automatically. I actually believe that AI design had the potential to be great in this game. mostly because Demigod had a great AI system, and like we already said, Wildman definitely took some inspiration from this game. But we can only speculate about this because we'll never get to experience this game. Would it really be an evolutionary action RPG? I highly doubt that, but it had the potential to be an interesting game at least. The saddest part of this story is the fate of gas-powered games. As an independent studio, they were officially closed in 2013, shortly after the unsuccessful Wildman Kickstarter campaign, but they were actually absorbed into Wargaming to become Wargaming Seattle. Unfortunately, this studio was officially closed in 2018, laying off around 150 developers. A sad story indeed. And that would be it for this video. Don't forget to subscribe for more content and click on the bell icon so you don't miss any future uploads. Special thanks to my Patreons, and if you as well want to become one of them, all the links are in the description. Patreon is definitely the best place to directly support my work, and every contribution is highly appreciated. That would be all, and I'll see you in the next one.